Today I thought we would have a look at some miniature knives, mostly because I was going to do a destruction test, but it's too windy outside to do it. The microphone keeps picking up the sound of the wind, but not me, so lucky escape there. We've grouped them into three groups: our usability from left to right, each with a AA battery for scale. First of all, the Spyderco Bug, which is my work EDC. I work in a care home, so a small knife like this is really handy thing to have for opening packages, packets, cutting. Well, what you use a small knife for. Sits in your hand really nicely. I've had this 2 years or so. It gets used most days, and I've resharpened it twice, I think. Stainless steel. It's a Spyderco Bug. Small, nice, simple to carry. Folds down, very small indeed, but it's still sharp enough to use, still a practical knife, and has actually got the little Spyderco logo on it, although it is wearing rapidly because it gets carried out of my pocket all the time. Second, and probably I think the best, is this Opinel. It is an Opinel number 2 and is basically a very tiny version of its larger brethren without the locking ring, which means of course you can carry it quite freely. In this country it is frighteningly sharp. The blade is really quite thin, and quite a nice compact size, but it don't half cut through things. Let's see. Really is a nice, neat knife to carry. Probably the least useful in my opinion, although probably one of the nicest, is this SOG Fusion Micron. It says it there, and of course says China on the other side. Bit of jimping there, which is quite superfluous, but it's a nice touch. Sits in your hand again quite nicely. One thing I don't like about Tantos is they are a pig to sharpen in this kind of size, and they're not actually that functional. They're much more functional in a larger size, but it was a SOG and I could afford it, and it is really nicely made. Those are decent screws. Finish is worn off because I did carry it for a few months attached to a key ring, and yeah, it led a fairly hard life. These knives, they're ideal if you want something to put on a key ring because they're nice and subtle. People generally can't see them, and if you do, you can get them into places you're not really supposed to take knives in. And they're not very expensive, and they're actually really quite useful things to have with you. You've always got a small blade if you've got one of these. A bit less useful are these two. These were bought by me on eBay. You can buy a knife on eBay in the UK. Oh yes, you can. Obviously they've come from China. This one was delayed by the current madness that's going on. Yeah, rather badly faked finish to it. That's terrible really, isn't it? But I do like this little blade. You can hold it reasonably firmly, although what you'd need to really, given that these are actually being sold as pendants, hence you're able to actually buy them on eBay in the UK. This is a cleaver. It's reasonably well made. Both of these actually have functional lanyard holes, and this is actually a functional cleaver. Nice grip on it. Let's chop something. In this case, a chili. Yep. Cleaves very nicely. I can't help wondering if little tiny knives like this, advertised and sold as pendants, might be designed for chopping up something else. But I like these. They're fairly cheap little things. Quite usable, and yeah, actually functional. Much less functional, indeed you could argue pretty much pointless, are these two little things here, made by Rough Rider, and actually do have Rough Rider on them. That is all they actually have on them. Of course, it's just too damn small to put anything else on them. Wharncliffe blade, drop point. As you can see, they are very very small. I don't really see the point of these apart from having something a bit novel. You can't sharpen them, they are too damn small. You can try and hold them, but I just think they're too small. But they're interesting, I think, because they are quite such small knives. I did have another little one that I bought at a car boot sale, dropped it on the floor and hoovered it up, which is a great shame. They came in this box, a box for each of them. Rough Rider, nicely marked up, something written there, but I have no idea what that says. It's too small to even read. Rough Rider miniature lockback. One is gold effect, this one, although you can see if you do try and sharpen it, the gold effect wears off pretty quickly. And in the box, oh yes, there's a little warning from our friend in California. Anyone got any ideas what part of steel causes problems like that? Goodness knows, but that's La La Land for you. So, it's a brief look at some tiny little knives. Some useful, some not quite so useful. All of them in my collection. All of them I do quite like. I did have another one as well. It's this eBay pendant cleaver, but I just don't like it really. I don't like it at all. Unlike this one, which I like a lot. So there we go, miniature knives. Small collection, fairly cheap. I think these work out at about £10 each. Something like £8 to £10 each. These were a couple of quid each, and these I really can't remember these tiny little ones how much they were. And so I do wonder what Rough Rider were thinking, making something quite this small. Well, some idiot like me will buy it presumably, but it's interesting just because I think because it is quite such a tiny little knife, they have a place possibly. I don't really see. I'd be frightened to stick it on a keyring and then lose it without knowing, frankly. So I haven't. That's why they sit in their California boxes. Anyway, tiny knives.